When you're assigned a project on ancient Greece, you are looking for a way into a world that ended thousands of years ago. You're looking for evidence that explains how people lived, thought, and fought. But on their own, ruins are silent. Standing in the middle of these columns doesn't tell you the names of the people who built them, or what happened to the civilization that left them behind. You might find surviving fragments, like this bronze statuette. In history, we call these primary sources, direct physical links to the time period you're studying. While these individual pieces are essential, they don't explain the context surrounding them. To understand the story of a whole civilization, you need a way to connect these disconnected parts. This is why researchers start by looking at the work of a historian who has spent years studying thousands of fragments from a specific era. These experts take the chaos of scattered artifacts and organize them into a clear narrative, explaining the relationship between different events and people. When you use an expert's organized summary for your own project, you are using what is known as a secondary source. Relying on these later reports provides the necessary perspective to make sense of the past before you begin analyzing individual artifacts on your own. The defining characteristic of a secondary source is that it was created after the time period you are investigating. If researching ancient Greece, a modern website or book is a secondary source because the author is looking back at the past. This same timing applies to more recent history, like World War I. A textbook about the conflict published in 1995 is a secondary source. Even though the book is decades old, it was written long after the war ended in 1918. The specific publication date matters less than the fact that the historical event was already over when the author sat down to write. In your own work, think of secondary sources as a map. They provide the broad overview of your topic, the dates, the names, and the major turning points, helping you navigate the subject. Starting your research with raw fragments before you have this map can be overwhelming. It's difficult to understand the significance of a single letter or photograph if you don't know the larger story. Secondary sources also help you trace the long-term results of an event, showing how one moment led to a series of changes across the world. By using these summaries to build your foundation, you'll have a much clearer understanding of the subject before you look at the primary evidence. It might seem like a disadvantage that the author of a secondary source wasn't there to witness the events they are describing. However, writing after the fact provides the benefit of hindsight. These authors know exactly how the events played out and what the ultimate consequences were. Look at how this museum display organizes these objects. A historian is able to gather artifacts from different locations, compare them, and explain how they relate to one another in a way that someone living at the time never could. Chronological distance gives a secondary source its explanatory power, allowing the author to curate a complete and accurate picture of the past. For your next project, use this checklist to see if you have a secondary source. First, was it created after the time period? Second, is it an expert analysis? And finally, does it explain the broader context? If you can check those boxes, you've found a secondary source. Use that expert perspective to build a strong foundation for your next history project.